Hello. So let's start with the assignment number 8 for the of the PP Lab. We will study the NumPy library. So what is NumPy? It is a library consisting of multi-dimensional array objects and a collection of routines for processing of arrays. NumPy is a general purpose array processing Python library which provides handy methods or functions for working on n-dimensional arrays. NumPy is a short form for numerical Python. It provides various computing tools such as comprehensive mathematical functions and linear algebra routines. NumPy provides both the flexibility of Python and the speed of well-optimized compiled C code. Its easy-to-use syntax makes it highly accessible for productive programmers and for any program for programmers from any background. This NumPy tutorial will help you learn the fundamentals of NumPy from basics to advanced. So basically, NumPy is an open source project that can be used freely. NumPy was created in 2005 by Travis Oliphant. NumPy stands for Numerical Python. So the basic question is why to use NumPy array instead of a list. So there are main three reasons when you should use NumPy over the list. So the first reason is NumPy arrays are multi-dimensional, whereas lists they are one-dimensional. NumPy arrays are homogeneous, while lists are heterogeneous. Homogeneous means the data of the all array elements will be of same times, and heterogeneous means the data of the array elements like list can be of diverse types. NumPy arrays are more efficient, require less memory, and fast than Python list. So, NumPy aims to provide an array object that is up to 50x faster than traditional Python list. The array object in NumPy is called ndarray. It pro- so now see how to create a NumPy array. So to use NumPy, you have to import this NumPy library, and generally NP alias is used when you are working with the NumPy library. NumPy arrays they can be of multi-dimensional types. So basically see how this single dimensional array looks. It will look something like this. Two-dimensional array will look something like this, which has two axes, axis 1, axis 0 and axis 1. A three-dimensional array will look something like this. Three-dimensional array will have three axes. How to create the array? To create the array, you have to use this. You have to call the array method and this np alias, and you have to pass the array. So this statement will create single dimensional array, and this statement, second statement, it will create two dimensional array and the data type of all the elements. If you want to specify float, then using dtype attribute you can specify it. So there are different functions available with NumPy. So basically, if you want to create an array consist of all the consisting of all array elements initialized to 0, then you can use zeros function. Ones function will create an array of ones. So to see the few other functions like these are the other functions available. If you want to find the shape of the array, use shape function. Length function will tell you the length of the array. Ending function will give you number of array dimensions. A dtype function, it will give you data type of the array elements. These are the elements. NumPy array can consist of elements of these data types like integer, float, complex, boolean, object, string, and Unicode. On NumPy arrays, you can perform mathematical operations like subtraction, addition, division, multiplication, exponentiation, square root, etc. So just refer to this code. I will share this sheet with you. You can take help of this. Uh, these aggregate functions also you can use. And the next part is Like you can sort arrays using sort function also. And this, okay. So uh, there are two ways in which you can create NumPy arrays. So first way is you have to import NumPy library and call the array function. So to this array function, you have to pass the array, and then this array object will create array of NumPy type. So if I print this, you will have this array. Now this another line, import numpy as np. So basically numpy is usually imported under the np alias. So instead of using this full package name, you can use short form np, call the array method, pass the array. This statement will print the array, which is single dimensional array, and this type method will print the type of the object. So here this it is the object, and type method will print which type of object it is. So if I execute it, you will see print method will print the numpy array, and this object is of class numpy.ndarray. Uh, so now see how to create zero dimensional arrays. Zero dimensional arrays, they are also known as scalars. W- These are the arrays in which only one element is there. So like if you want to create numpy array consisting of only one element, you don't need to use square brackets. Pass that single value in this and then print this. So this is the array. A array that has a one dimensional arrays as its elements is called two dimensional array. So these two dimensional arrays are often used to represent matrix or second order tensors. So to create a two dimensional array, you use the numpy array function and pass a list of lists as an argument. Each inner list represents a row of the array, and the outer list contains all the row. To print the array, you can use the print function. uh, so let's take example here. So this statement will create two dimensional array. So you outer list will create outer list and inner list. See, it is represented in this way. So see, this is a two dimensional array. uh, Once we create a multidimensional array, you can access and modify its elements using indexing and slicing, and use the index notation I and j to access an element of row I and column j, where I and j are zero based indices. So let's see with example how to access the elements of a two-dimensional array. So this is the array. If you have to access element at row 1 and column 2, so indexing will start from 0. So this will be the zeroth row and this will be the first row. So element at row first and column 2 will be like, so this will be zeroth column, first and second. So this element 7 is present at row 1, column 2. So similarly, if you have to modify an element, uh, you can directly specify the index and assign the new value, and so execute all this in one go and see the result. So this is the output. So now see, initially at zeroth row and third column the element was 4, but after modification the value is 20. So to create three-dimensional arrays, basically you have to use this syntax. So see, you have to pass a two-dimensional array as a single element. And array that has two-dimensional arrays as its elements is called three-dimensional arrays, and they are often used to represent a third-order tensor. So this is a three-dimensional array. So now see one interesting thing. Uh, in this example, the array is like fixed rows and columns. All elements in columns for uh, each row contains four elements. If you don't specify the fourth element, then see what will happen. So now uh, this is the list, and the array it's not created. So see, whenever you will create array, you have to make sure that you have to pass the all the same number of elements for both rows and columns. Uh, but in practical situation, what if you don't know in advance the number of elements? So we will study few functions shortly afterwards, and then you will find out how to initialize those arrays. There are many beautiful functions available, and with which you can like initialize the elements in a simple line or a single syntax. So now you have seen how to create multidimensional arrays. So what if you want to find out the uh, number of dimensions of an array? So there is a ndim attribute. So this attribute will tell you the number of dimensions. So like for this array, if you want to find out the number of dimensions, then you can get it using this code. So this is a two-dimensional array. Uh, this dtype attribute you can use to find the data type of the elements that are stored in an array, and also you can find the shape and size of array using size and shape function. So now see how to use the shape attribute. So the shape attribute will returns a tuple of integers, and the tuple indicates the size of the array in each dimension. So for a matrix with n rows and m columns, shape will be n into m. So basically, let's take example of this array. So shape attribute will return the tuple indicating the size. So if I execute it, so it is 2 by 2 array. Now if I add few elements, then the size is changed. So this is how you have to use shape function. If you want to create array with 5 dimensions, then you can pass value 5 at the time of declaration of array to this ndim attribute, and now this line will create array consisting of these elements. It will be a 5-dimensional array. This line will print the array, and to see the shape of the array, you can use shape function. Shape function will basically return the tuple of integers, the size of array in each dimension. So now this line has created 5-dimensional array as the ndim has attribute. Ndim attribute has value 5. To print the array, see, this is a 5-dimensional array, and the shape of the array is like in each axis, the first axis has one element, second axis has one element, third axis has one element, fourth has one element, and fifth has 4 element, which is this array. So this way you can use ndim and shape attributes to find out the size of the array. Many times in data science project, you need to change the original size of the array. So you can take help of reshape function. So it performs shape manipulation. It changes the shape of an array. So an array has a shape given by the number of elements along each axis. So for let's take this example. This is a array and its shape is 2 by 3. So this is 2-dimensional array and 3 elements on each axis. Now if you want to change, and this array will look something like this. If you want to change the shape, then you can take a help of reshape function. So now this is a object, array object A. If you want it to have 3 rows and 2 columns, then use reshape function and specify how many rows and columns you want. Now if I execute this, you will see the array is created, which is have these dimensions like 3 rows and 2 columns. Again, I will execute this method, and if I change it here, like instead of 3 by 2, if I change it something like let's add some element 4 by 2. So now see, this array has 8 elements, 2 rows and 4 columns. And now if I okay, now see how to use multiplication operator. So this statement will create an array which is containing these elements, and if you want to multiply each element of the array with 5, simply use this statement and you will see the result. So now you must have understood how efficient it is to manipulate arrays, numpy arrays. In this case, the array has only 4 elements, but assume what if you have an array which has, let's say, hundreds or thousands or millions of elements. Then also, if you want to perform these operations like addition or multiplication, you just have to write a simple single line of code and you will be able to perform. Now see the next function. NumPy also provides many beautiful functions which like can create arrays of different types using only by calling those default functions. So let's say if you want to create an array of any dimensions, but the array should contain all the elements having values 1, then call this function once. It takes 4 parameters, 4 to 5 parameters. First is shape, another one is data type, next one is order, then like. So the shape you have to specify, this d type you have to specify the data type, this is optional. Then the order, so you have to just check whether to store multidimensional data in row style or in column style, and the other parameters you can see it here. So let's execute this. If you want to create an array, okay, consisting of all elements in an array having value once only, so first you have to pass the shape. So like this once function, it will, as this is a function, you have to write parameters in square brackets. And if I want to create an array of 2 rows and 3 columns, if I execute this command, you will see this array is created. Uh, so now if I want to add value 5 to all elements of the array, then you just have to use this addition operator. And now add, this array will initially have all the values at once, and this plus 5, it will add 5 to all the elements. And after that, if I print it, you will see how to use this once function. Similarly, zeros function, it will create array of any shape and all the elements of the array will have value 0. So like in this example, this zeros function will create array of this size and all the elements have value 0. Now if I write plus 1, then you will see all the zeros will be added with the value plus 1. Uh, Sometimes you need to create arrays having ones on the diagonal line, then you can create, use I function. So let's take example. This I function, it will create array consisting of 3 rows and 2 columns, and in the diagonal line you will have all ones. Okay, so this is the example. Now we can change the size and we can see. Okay, so this is the array of 6 rows and 6 columns, and you can see once they are created on the diagonal line. So the next function which you have to see is this diagonal. So the I function, it will create array of ones on the diagonal line. What if you want array where the elements on the diagonal line, they have different values other than 1? So to do that, you can use this diagonal function and you have to pass the array. So by default, this fu- function will create the array and it will print these values, okay, on the diagonal line. So this printf function will print the array, and Okay, now see how to perform different operations on array using these operators. So like let's say this line, it will create a array, and this method print a will print the array. And if you want to add value 1 to each element, then you have to, instead of writing for loop or etc., in a simple syntax, if you write something like this a plus 1, each element will now have value which is value of element plus 1. So now see, uh, now if you want the arrange function to create array of elements starting from this number to this number, and this third parameter will work as a step operator. So if I pass value 2, then this arrange function will create array in the range 1 to 10, and step value it will consider as 2. So let's say this is a array which has 5 elements. By default, if you don't write this value, then the step value will be 1. Now, the next function which you have to see is line space. So the line space function returns an array of evenly spaced values within the specified interval. So like let's see, you want to create array of values 0 to 1, and you need, let's say, suppose 5 such values. So now see, this line space function will create array in the range 0 to 1, and if you want 5 values, then see, these are the 5 values, these they are all evenly spaced. We can take a different example. Let's say 20 to 100, you want 25 values, evenly spaced 25 values. Then see, this array will create values from the range 20 to 100, and 25 evenly spaced value you can see. Now, the last topic which you have to see is how to create different arrays. So like how to use different mathematical operations. So let's say this is one array, array X, and this is another array, array Y. Uh, if you want to add elements inside the array, you just have to use this addition operator, and now you will see this is the result, addition. So either you can add array elements in this way or call this function, add function. Similarly, subtraction also, you can call subtract function. It will subtract values. And similarly, sum function, sum on x is 0, sum on x is 1 will return these values.